it's getting a bit muddy for me now. What do you do? Do you sit there in silence or do you not?
Loads of people leave with 12 minutes to go. How are we valuing the start of the game versus the end of the game?
If you're going to be quiet in the next game for half an hour, but Celtic score 3 goals in the first half hour,
Yeah.
your protest is dead and buried.
It can't just be a case of, right, that's the transfer window over, boys. We forget about it, we move on. There's negativity surrounding this whole club.
Well, come on, stop moaning. You're still getting paid 20 odd grand a week.
But yeah, this guy says his life turned upside down, and we're just like, right, we'll get on with it.
I just want him to put
What a
on his
reference.
Celtic strip, shave his head again, and sing the Celtic song.
Can't wait for the thumbnail of this episode. Jamie goes off.
Boring football and fan protests. Celtic are second in the league. Who's to blame? That's this week on 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host, Jamie, joined by Melly.
Yes.
Stephen. Oh, you still doing it?
I was going to hold that for 12 minutes there just to see your faces and just to get it up with the Celtic board. See,
Do you know what?
how do you like that?
Happy if you'd
There'll be a lot of people listening to this podcast that would be like, brilliant, man. Hope he keeps it up for 45 minutes.
Can anyone reach my wire? Just pull my mic just now. Give the people what they want.
What did you, Melly, would you make of the silence then? That was we're going to talk a wee bit about it. So the fan protest, it was late into the game and for the first time, and then there was a visible protest holding up cards the second time, and then it was announced by this Celtic fan collective, and we'll explain a wee bit about who they are for those who don't know, that the next thing was going to be a sort of ramping up of silences. First one was going to be against HIBS, 12 minutes of silence against HIBS. What did you make it?
A damn squid, wasn't it? It didn't. I don't know. When you go into Celtic Park and you just expect to hear the noise from the North Curve or the boys, and it's not there. It is noticeable. It is quiet, but just not sure it has the effect that it does. Maybe if Celtic were playing well or playing really, really, really badly, then it would have an effect. But I just don't think it has an effect on the performance at all, which is fine. But just not sure it's got that effect on the board or what it's wanting to deliver to. I don't think it's quite hard hitting enough because it's you not doing something to try and get at them. And the fan protest where we stay outside is very visible. So if the cameras are on that, it happens straight away. But because what you're looking for me is the board to be embarrassed, to be humiliated, to think these people don't want me here, and having a silence is probably what they would prefer.
Stephen, I was when the silences were first announced, my initial impression was, because I want this thing to succeed, I want to see change at Celtic. I want that the questions in the open letter answered, and I want Celtic to be the best it can be. That's the core of this. When I saw the silences coming out, it didn't make sense to me. To be perfectly blunt, everyone's entitled to their opinion. No people get sensitive about this. I'm not condemning the whole endeavour, but the silence thing just didn't make sense to me. It was the first home game back, and I wanted impact. I wanted I think visibility is so important. I think you need to see a united fan base, and I think just having it condensed into the Green Brigade and the boys, I think that it sort of distills it down into yet another Green Brigade protest. For a lot of people, it's too easy to have it classified as that. How can you Celtic Park is quiet most of the time, so how do you know how many people are participating in that and how many people are not? It's too difficult for me to distinguish about that. So it lacked visual impact. It really did. If it was a stadium wide, I don't know, banners or the opposite, just singing whatever you wanted, that's what I wanted to see. The increasing of it, so it's 12 minutes, 29 minutes and 32 minutes over the next couple of home games. I get why they did it. I think that's days since the open letter was issued. If a silence is impactful, why are we starting at 12 minutes? Can't we just pick a first half? Why does it need to be ramped up? Why is it ramped up in such a weird incremental way? It's overthought. So I was disappointed. I thought first home game back, I was hoping, I think everyone was. I think all the talk was, the buzzword around that first home game back was, it's going to be toxic when you get into Parkhead.
They were lucky it was a month in between.
Yeah. I think if the board could have picked anything for the fan to sit and endure, it probably would have been the fans sitting quietly for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, broadly speaking, I think I agree with the disappointment expressed. I wouldn't go all the way the other way, because I think a lot of people were quite angry about the silence, or the selection of the silence, not necessarily the withdrawing of singing itself. I think people thought it was completely the wrong choice, as has been expressed quite a lot online. But my feeling would be that it was quite a squandering of the opportunity that those quite unique circumstances presented,
Yes.
i.e. being away from the stadium for over a month, and all of this happened. And as we've already discussed, it was an opportunity to get back in there for the first time and actually let the board know to their faces what we thought of how the thing has been run over the last month or so, and let's face it, for a long time now. So I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity. I also didn't really buy into the logic of it either. Kind of like how you're describing there, sorry, Jamie. You're talking about how it didn't really make sense to you, and I was quite similar in that I think the withdrawal of singing makes sense, and it can be quite impactful, because we've seen it before. We've seen it when fans went on strike for various reasons.
Bernard Higgins was one.
Yeah, entirely justifiable reasons for it in the past, but that to me is something you do when it is a matter of fan oppression or not valuing the fans. And I sort of can draw the line between that and the silence coming from the board over the letter. But again, it's all quite convoluted and multi-layered, when really sack the board and chants and banners and all that would have been an awful lot more impactful. Now, of course, you can't force anyone to sing, and quite aside from any agreements made in various groups and collectives and all that, these groups might just unilaterally decide not to sing anyway. They might just decide to exercise their rights to withdraw their vocal support, and in that case, what are you going to do about it? But my initial thoughts over this would be, it's no the greatest of impacts. However, that doesn't mean there can't be an adjustment going forward. If we're stuck with these silences for the next 3 games, that doesn't mean we can't introduce other elements like banners and chanting and so on alongside that, because they are quite contained. They are, as you said, they're only a certain amount of minutes. After that point, we can do more stuff, but I think it does need a bit of a tweak from now.
I think so there's the Celtic fan collective, which was sent. So basically, the trajectory of this has been an open letter came out, and we signed it along with all these other fan groups. And it had questions on it that they wanted answered. We'll put a graphic up of that fan letter, so you can see that the questions, and we put our names to it, and we wanted answers to these questions about just the direction of the club, what's the plan for communication, why did the transfer window go wrong, like basic stuff that any customer that frequents any, if you went to a local pub and they took your favourite hamburger off the menu and you went to the manager, what happened to my bacon double cheeseburger, you would expect to be told. And that's kind of, we want the answers to these questions, and we want to know why Celtic are moving in a certain direction, and that was formed the basis of it, because it was just another mess up of the transfer window. We don't need to go in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the Celtic fan collective was formed off the back of that, and a graphic was put out of what the steering group was made up of. You know, there's like 2 people from forums and 1 person from the Green Brigade. I can't remember it off by hand. And
3 fan media.
3 fan media.
So CSCs, that kind of
so
thing.
for clarity, if you're wondering, we're not on the steering group.
No.
We're not one of the 3 fan media. We don't know who are, but we're on the outside, and we're sort of watching this unfold, and we're just giving our opinion on it, much like we do with everything else to do with Celtic. So I think it was just a real missed opportunity. I don't think there's going to be any change in direction anyway for the next 2 games. But what Stephen says is quite interesting. There can be other ways to show your frustration, but then you're like, well, okay, is it fractured? Does it splinter? Does it help if you've got one group doing a silence and then another group shouting sack the board? Like, where does it all fit in? So I think a rethink is needed about how the action's going to unfold going forward.
Yeah, for the one where people stayed outside, it was a case of, look, if you want to go in, that's absolutely fine. And then from what I heard, there was no animosity between people going in and people staying outside. This one, from where we sat in the stadium, there was a bit of animosity when the singing started, as if it was this is a Green Brigade thing, which it wasn't. But the fact that it was kind of, look, you can go and sing if you want, but we're not going to, kind of has to be, this is what we're doing, join in or don't. And it's kind of it's getting a bit muddy for me now. What do you do? Do you sit there in silence or do you not? And some people, that then meant their anger went towards the people who were silent, and that's not the aim here. The aim's for the anger to go across the stadium to the board. So for me, like you, it has to be something different that everybody can participate in if they so wish. Whereas that one, you can't really tell if people are participating or not.
I think the argument where some people are saying, well, this will harm the team, I've got some pretty strong views on that. I think...
Right, see on that, it won't, because we don't score goals in the first half.
See, the singing, the silence is not going to harm the team.
No.
But I am kind of the opinion, well, if you think this issue is existential to Celtic, because some people do, it's clear that I don't think there's agreement on the steering group about who should go and who shouldn't go and all that sort of stuff and who wants what, which I think is another maybe slight issue. But if you think this issue is existential to Celtic, if you think the chairman, the CEO and all these people need to go and you need to clear the decks and start again and Celtic need a whole brand new direction, then you can't also have an absolute red line where, well, I refuse to do anything that's going to harm the team. It's like, well, you know, if what would put more pressure on the board, I think, is if Brendan Rodgers come out and go, look, the fans are not singing. We're really struggling. And we've got a chairman up there, or a CEO rather, who's not answered the fans' questions whilst they sit in silence. Can we not get round the table and sort this out? Because it's starting to ebb onto the field. I personally feel that sort of thing would put more pressure on things. However, that being said, I understand that not many people have got the appetite for that. But you said something last week, Melly, that caught my interest at the time, and I forgot to bring it up, because we were talking around the table about what you prepared to do. And I made the point, and I stand by it after watching last week's performance, that this board don't care about the Europa League. There's been no preparation for the Europa League, taking it as a serious tournament whatsoever. So I'm not going to front load my tickets, pay all up front for games that you don't care about. But you said, well, I'm going to buy my tickets because I want to go to the games, and I'm still going to go to the games, and I'm going to support my team, but I want change. And you're not the only one that said that. There's a lot of that sentiment out there where it's sack the board but back the team. I don't know what that looks like. I really don't, because if you're going to keep doing what you've always done but just sit in the stand thinking negatively about something where before you thought neutrally about it, it's not going to do much. You know, that still going to the games, still buying your pie and still buying your strips and doing everything you've always done, but also thinking, oh, I want it to change, to me, doesn't make sense. I'm not saying I've got the answers, but let's hear it for you.
Yeah, to quote Aliens, what we're going to use, harsh language.
Yes.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying I've got the answers either, but for me, I'll do everything apart from not go to the game. So I need to figure out a way to do that. That's what I was hoping would happen with these meetings. I went along to the first one. There hasn't been another one that we've been invited to, and I was hoping this steering group would be able to say, this is what we're all going to do. Let's get on board to put pressure on. That's not quite happened yet. So for me, I can't square that off where I'm wanting, yes, I want change, but I still want to watch my team and I still want to back them. I don't know what that looks like. In the past, I suggested the scarves and doing something different. Stephen pointed out a flaw where black and green are easily are difficult to see. So
literally the colours of camouflage as well as being Celtic in nature.
With
I was thinking if we could get red, white and blue scarves, which stop the boards on them.
That might work. But with the fan collective thing, we've had the logo of the green and red logo, so maybe if we could have the green and red as a scarf. But I'm still trying to work it out myself, mate. I've not got the answer here, but I can't. If there was a thing where we all got together and said, look, for this game, we're not going to go in, and if everybody backs it, I would do that, but we're not at there yet. We're nowhere near that yet, so I need to figure out a way that hopefully everybody comes together and says, this is the next protest that everybody can get involved in if they want, and then I can do that. But just having, don't go to the games, doesn't cut it for me, because people still go to the game and there's different ways we can do it. I would rather be in the stadium showing my fury than sitting at home, because then somebody else goes to my place.
Well, that's fair enough. That's a fair enough thing to say. Stephen, I think this, is there urgency? I don't know if there's urgency. There's definitely a sense of the Celtic fans were really united. Most I've ever seen them off the back of that transfer debacle in the Champions League thing, and the amount of signatories to the open letter, you literally couldn't get many more people in it. I had people texting me from Celtic supporters clubs saying, shit, my name wasn't on it, going to pass my name on and make sure that we are included on it. And I think that wasn't just happening to me. That was quite a common thing.
It grew a good bit from the first release of the names. There were several, like hundreds more added.
So you've got momentum there, and momentum for me is key, because we do want change. We want better communication from the. I think that's the key. We want, first of all, better communication. We want the answers to those 7 questions raised, and you've got the momentum behind you. And I think, honestly, the more we speak, the more I think continuing with these silences might just be a misstep. But I just feel like the momentum that we've got here might just ebb away. I don't know. I'm no, as I say, I don't have any influence over the situation. I'm just a participant who's a bit worried that we might take this opportunity of unity and momentum and fan anger and an opportunity to drive at something and make missteps along the way.
Yeah, I think so. I can't disagree with anything that's been said about the nature of this sort of silence thing. I think it focuses on the wrong thing. I think that the focus here has been pointing towards the importance of the fans, and I don't think that belongs in this conversation just now. This is about targeting rather than putting our hands up and saying you can't do this without us. That for me, that's a different protest altogether. That's a stop treating the fans badly thing. I know that there's an element of that in there, but in order to make it about the withdrawal of singing, I find is, as you described, that a bit of a misstep, but when it should be directed towards the board rather than just sitting in silence. So it's we're all demanding change and all that, right? But even a confrontation, even a confrontation of the issues at play, but they've not done that either. To even just address the questions that you've mentioned, that I think they've put out that Fairhurst report thing, which they've probably been sitting on for months.
Sitting in, I'd give them some.
Yeah, chuck them a bone there. But it's I can't get on board at all that with this idea that withdrawing a little bit of singing is going to harm the team at all. I think it's overplaying it. I think it's over mythologizing this whole the Celtic fans are going to drive the team on stuff, because we need to be a wee bit more realistic about that as well. It is in general quite a quiet stadium these days. No, it still has its moments. Some of the Champions League games, some of the derbies and all that are all still brilliant, but in general, your run-of-the-mill standard domestic games are quite quiet, right? And I just don't think it's having any impact on potential results at all, because you can look at any other game. I've done this before on this podcast. You can look at any other game this season. A lot of the performances have been very, very similar. We've not scored one first half goal in the league so far this season, a couple extra in the cup. None of that was impacted in any way by just a few random Celtic songs at the start of games. Also, if you want to be even more realistic about it, how are we valuing these minutes? Because there's 12 minutes at the start of the game where people are being a little bit quiet as the game sort of gets into flow. Loads of people leave with 12 minutes to go. How are we valuing the start of the game versus the end of the game?
It was a bit woolly, because they were like, well, if I want to sing, or if Celtic score, what do we do? We cheer like normal. So, I mean, I'm being flippant here, but if you're going to be quiet for 12, if you're going to be quiet in the next game for half an hour, but Celtic score 3 goals in the first half hour, your protest is dead and buried before it's even off the ground. It needs to be more clear. It needs to be more pointed. It needs to be more direct, and the energy and attention needs to be focused on the outcome for me. And I just don't think a silence is that.
That's the problem, isn't it? The energy needs to be there, and with the silence, there's no energy, is there? There's nowhere to have that release. And with the team as well, I think with the momentum like you're talking about, I don't think it's going to lose too much momentum just by what you've seen over the team in the past, near months since the transfer window slammed shut. This team isn't going to go on a 10-game winning run.
Nah.
They're going to struggle like they did in Brendan Rodgers' first season in his return, where, remember, we were talking about, is this the week we get to 3 wins in a row? It's going to be like that, just with the way the European games fall, with having to rotate, and even the game at the weekend was a decent enough performance where Celtic just didn't score. But it's the 4th 0-0 we've had this season, so you can't just write it off as a bad game. So there's going to be bad results throughout this season. We've got a dialer sort of shaped squad now. We're going to get results that will lead from that. So this is going to keep, the momentum's going to come up every time there's a bad result, because we're now the Red Star game, that's another big game that Celtic have failed to lose it. And the weekend, we're bringing on James Forrest, Johnny Kenny, Balakwisha, who have got 1 goal between them this season to try and win us a game. So every time a bad result happens, if Hearts do manage to creep further ahead, the momentum's going to turn back to the board, but we need to figure out a way for that momentum to take off.
Well, that was a good example there, because, Stephen, that performance against Hibs is another game where we're relying on, that's just players who either aren't good enough, or players that shouldn't be here, or players that are just in the door that aren't fit. We're relying on these guys to get us through games. We're having to play players out of form.
Yeah.
And you think that was the perfect opportunity. The conversation, again, can turn to the board there, because you're looking at that team and you're going, it's a mess. But is there an element of, right, let's shelf the board chat just now. Let's talk about this team. What's going on with it? What's going on with the 11, 12, 15 guys that are taken to the pitch for Celtic? What's going on with the manager?
Yeah, I think there are problems there, which is why, quite aside from the fact that I've already said I didn't really agree with the intent of, or I agreed with the intent, rather, the execution of this protest. I didn't really think it was the best choice. However, I don't think it was that bad. I think it was just an ill-judged attempt to do something, even if I thought it was the wrong thing. Any attempt to say that it's causing disruption or affecting the team, in my opinion, blames us. It blames the fans for no.
I don't buy that.
No, that's why I want to kind of rule that out, because the problems are pretty clear with the team, rather than saying, oh, they drew nothing each because the fans didn't sing for 12 minutes. I know, like, that might be a pretty niche view, but it's just, I just want to shut that down immediately before it gets out of hand. And I don't want to buy into that at all. This is a team that doesn't really score goals at the moment. I think that, so at this point last season, 11 games in, we'd scored 36 goals. The same point this season, it's 17. The drop off there is enormous. And it's funny what happens when you sell all your goals over the course of a number of transfer windows, isn't it? So there are problems with where Celtic are going. And I do agree with Melly. I think it is just going to be one of those quite tough seasons. I think Celtic can still have a successful one. We shouldn't be too down about the fact that it might be a challenge. It might be, it might be tougher than we would have expected. But those are the reasons that Celtic aren't performing well, because it looks stale. They've had players that are either taking a wee while to adapt, and that's natural because they came in very, very late at the end of a transfer window. We've got players who have been there too long. We've got other players who are probably quite unhappy that they didn't get their move. So all of these factors, all these ingredients are all adding together to make just a bit of a kind of poor vibe around the place. And I know as much as I kind of try to move away from that subject, I know that withdrawal of a little bit of singing doesn't necessarily help. I know these players would prefer to play under a white hot atmosphere, but at the same time, it kind of has to work both ways. You do something to get the fans excited, and that'll pick up. Because as we've already discussed, this was not a mandatory silence. No one make a sound out there. So if you're a scab, if you even cough, that wasn't what it was. It was a withdrawal of some singing. We were still allowed to cheer, and with the chances that were being created in that 12 minutes, people were cheering, people were applauding. But get it going. That's what I mean. So it needs to kind of come off the pitch as well as onto it, rather than just blaming the fans for supposedly affecting results.
I was kind of, I felt for Brendan Rodgers in that game a wee bit, Melly, because I felt like that to me looked a bit like what Stephen said there, a team that had all its best players sold and the manager's trying to get something going. I think the final XG in that game was like, to bang on 3 XG to draw that game 0-0.
Martin.
Some of the but some of the chances that were passed up, Iheanacho rather, just didn't look fit. Johnny Kenny coming on to save the game with some poor misses. There was, I've got worried.
A lot of shooting from the edge of the box, just into shins and all that as well. So I think a lot of that will be contributing towards that. Plus, there was one with Iheanacho where he would have been called off for offside as well. He was in the dead centre of the goal, and it just kind of got
That's
past
lacking
his foot.
sharpness as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Make sure you're on side, knowing where you're supposed to be when the balls come. I know it can happen, but I don't know. His miss, you're like, that just looked like a guy who's not played a lot of football.
But it could be written off as like a bad day at the office, because the chances were created but not scored. But you could flip that the other way and say, look, but that's going to happen if you get a team that isn't really scoring goals in the first place.
Yeah.
Look, you might have a bad game like that. We've all seen absolute nonsense games where you've maybe missed 2 penalties, you get a man sent off with some freak incident, and you've created loads of chances, and you come away thinking, how did we not win that game? that wasn't really that.
No, it wasn't as if you're coming away going, that keeper was superb.
Yeah,
What
it
about
was
that
good.
save, that
It
save?
had a couple of good saves, but it wasn't an absolute bombardment. And the reason I'm saying that you could flip it the other way is that because Celtic have gotten lucky in a couple of games this season so far as well. There was the much debated, slightly dodgy penalty at the end of Kilmarnock where Ian Mitchell got his goal. St Mirren got a late goal. Not necessarily didn't deserve it, but what I'm talking about is that there have been fine margins either way in these games, and I thought that we were always going to get one of these at home. It's just a shame that I spoke a few weeks ago about how, I think it was just last week actually, we spoke about how the temperature might come down in this, but the first time we get a draw at home, that's when it's all going to hit back again. But because of the choices made and the silence and all that, like making it a little bit of a kind of flat atmosphere in the first place, there was no directing of it all towards the board. So a kind of strange day overall.
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers, for all his faults in the way the team are playing, I mentioned it last week and we'll probably talk about it when we get on to Europe, but looking again, he started Maeda out in the right, he started in Iheanacho for the first time, and he had Tonecti in the left, so he's trying different things to try and get a tune out this team. He switched up the midfield as well, but none of it really worked. And while like Stephen says, there was chances there, it never felt like a bombardment. It never felt like towards the end Celtic were like the ball was going to end up in the back of the net. It just felt like it's going to happen again. It's just going to get to a 0-0, and there's a difference between, was it last season there was games under Ange where towards the end of the season or whatever, you just had a 1-1 draw with Motherwell at home and you could go, do you know what, it's just one of those games. This didn't feel like one of those games despite all the possession, despite the XG and all that. To me, it just felt like, this is going to happen a lot with this team.
Yeah, we've got problems all over the pitch though, don't we? I mean, and a lot of it can go back to, is it still now about the transfer, the whole Daizen thing. I've got to admit, I don't really have a huge amount of sympathy for Daizen Maeda. I think, okay, you didn't get your move. He's I understand it was probably pretty extreme circumstances. The guy had his locker cleared out and basically we turned the phone off and he couldn't get away. But you're here now. You're still here. You're here until December. You're still getting paid, as Brendan Rodgers is fond of saying. The wages are in the bank at the end of every month. I'm sure his agent's working on moves in the background. I'm sure he's going to get another one. The December/January transfer window isn't really that far away now. What are we basically in October?
Yeah.
We're in October now.
Are you saying, like, when transfer windows are closed, you can work on stuff?
Yes.
What?
I know. I'm saying Daizen's. I'm saying that Daizen will probably be aware of when his next move is, and it'll probably be January, unless it's his choice to stay until next summer when he's a free agent and get a better move. He will probably know where he's going in the next 4 weeks.
I think that's quite unfair on him, to be fair, mate. Like,
I've not finished. I'm going to be more unfair on him. so I just want him to put on his boots, buckle up his laces, and going to at least show us a bit of the old Daizen.
Buckle up his laces.
What was that? What was that? Put on a suit, cut the haircut, and sing the national anthem.
Is that Dave Cameron? How did he get in here? I think it was.
I just want him to put on his Celtic strip, shave his head again, and sing the Celtic song on the way, right? And I just want him to play a bit of football. Come on, stop moaning. You're still getting paid 20 odd grand a week for the next. You'll know what's happening. Stop being a mope about it. And the ENGELS as well. We've all wanted ENGELS, to succeed. We'll do Daizen and then ENGELS, but we all wanted ENGELS to succeed. I'm now going to take the Heart of a Mouse trophy off of Nicholas Kuhn from last season and give it to Arne ENGELS.
Congratulations, Arne. What an honour.
Okay, Arne. Yeah, everything was smashing for you when you were playing for your wee club in Germany. No playing every week and you loved it and it was nice. Then you get your move to Celtic. You're in the Champions League. You're playing most weeks. Nobody's really going to take your spot off you. It's fine. Then you lose your place to Benjamin Negrin. You do a press conference before the Rangers game, because I was there, and you said, I know what it's going to take. This isn't the first time I've not been in the team before. It's up to me to show the manager what he's missing. I know what it takes to get back in the Celtic team, and I'm going to do it. And it doesn't look like he's doing it. So he's not get the heart to get back in the Celtic team. The minute things go south for Arne ENGELS, he's not get the minerals to get back in the team.
And the trouble with that is, if you say you know how to do it and you don't do it, that makes it look like a choice.
Because Brendan Rodgers is telling him. Brendan Rodgers saying, I need you to do this. I'm sure he's not telling, I need you to do things that you can't do. So I think there's a malaise about Celtic just now. And why is it? From the top down. We don't need to keep going on about it. But I have very little sympathy for Daizen. Yeah, you didn't get your move. Boo-hoo-hoo. Whatever. Like, you'll get it in a couple of weeks. Arnie Engels, we paid a lot of money for you. Shows you've got something about you.
Yeah. Very harsh on Maeda. For me, that's not how life works, is it? You just don't go, oh, you didn't get that house, you'll get the next one. It's like,
that's exactly how life works.
Well, but
what's for you won't go by you.
If you want to sit
live, laugh, love is
live,
what
laugh, love, Daizen.
It could be the move what was the one he wanted at that point, and then when it gets to January, who's to say the team hasn't moved on and he won't get a good a move as that? And look, since he has been here, since he's been stayed here, he's played up front or he's played out in the right. His best position where he done all his damage was on the left-hand side last season. Yet, go and do something different and be just as good, or you're not trying hard, we'll stick you out in the right where you're not as effective, or you're not doing it there either.
I do have sympathy for that, just to get a bit of back and forth going. I do have a bit of sympathy for that, because Daizen could rightfully say to Brendan, this guy's just in the door. Yes, he's doing quite well out there. Throw him out in the right-hand side, because this is where...
I scored 30 goals last year.
This is my spot, and this is where I always play.
He couldn't... Probably literally couldn't have done any more last season in that position to say, I'm the best player here, go and sort the rest of your team out, and then if I stay. But the way things have panned out with signings and signing too many players that side, not signing any up front, he's been the guy that's been shipped around, and it's quite unfair. And even with Daizen Maeda, there was a point where he closed down the fullback brilliantly. There was a good cross for Iheanacho that he missed. I didn't see Daizen Maeda missing chance after chance or not putting the effort in. It's the fact that all over the pitch, like you say, Celtic have got problems. Kasper Schmeichel doesn't look too confident when there's a cross in there.
Look, we're talking about Engels and Daizen just now. Let's focus on these two.
If you focus on them, if around them, Colby Donovan and Anthony Ralston will be playing not the usual. Tierney and Sriracha have been in and out. Liam Scales is still playing at centre-half. The midfield, we've all sat here and said it's no working, yet we're expecting guys, you go do it all yourself then, because the rest of the team's not working, so why isn't it working with you? It's a failure of the unit. It's no just, we can't look at, there's no player in the Celtic team in form, not one. The best player right now is Iheanacho, and he's had his probably biggest impact coming off the bench. As soon as we start him, we have to take him off. We've had to get Tierney through games. These guys are all coming in and out, and it's not if we put Maeda here, it might work. If we put Engels in here, it should work now. We're getting the same results, moving players about and changing players. It's a whole unit that's not working. It's not just that. It can't just be Brendan Rodgers sort it.
You're feeling really passionate about this. For those listening, Millie's got tears running down his eyes.
It isn't just a case. It isn't just a case.
Go on, mate. Go on.
This is me, my fury.
I love Daizen.
I was silent at the weekend, and this is me unleashing the fury. It can't just be a case of, right, that's the transfer window over, boys. We forget about it. We move on. There's negativity surrounding this whole club, and rarely does it just go, right, let's go out and win a game and it'll all fix, because there's another game comes and different challenges come up after that.
But although the guys that are performing the best for us are the guys, well, apart from one player that we're going to get to in a second, who's got a Player of the Year shout in him, I think. But the guys who are performing the best for us are guys that all just walked in the door, well, with the exception of Balikwisha. We discussed it, but I just don't have an awful lot of sympathy for this.
Right, who?
Tonecki.
And
Sriracha.
And?
Nygren.
Right, Sriracha. So, Nygren, fine. Tonecki, fine. Sriracha
Iheanacho,
started one game. He started one game.
These guys, they're performing better than the guys who've been here for ages. Did we not discuss this in the last? We discussed this.
They're performing okay.
Yes,
they're not performing brilliantly.
No, but they're better. My point is
better than what? But that's my point.
Yeah.
The standard is low.
Yes,
and they're doing better than that. Celtic aren't scoring goals, but you just name 3 attacking players.
My point is, I suppose that there might be a malaise about the club, but some players are capable of breaking free from it, and I think. It's can it just all be the board? It can't just be the board, the manager. Some of these players have to take a wee bit of responsibility. And the reason I brought up Engels and Daizen was because we're seeing it with Engels. People are talking about it now. We're talking about it in the group chats and the Discord. Like, what has happened to this guy? He's fallen off a cliff. And Daizen, Stephen, the manager spoke about it. Brendan said of Daizen, something to the effect, we need to manage it and make sure it doesn't start. He didn't say it doesn't start affecting his performance, but
that this is my point as well. Like you say this, the players need to take responsibility. Roy Keane's on every second week saying about that about Man United. We've seen it with Tottenham last year. Every team that's struggling, the other players need to go out and take responsibility. When there's negativity around a team, it's it's simple that you just go, do you know what? I'll just go out in the pitch and sort it. And then the guy beside you's like, all right, I'll sort it. It doesn't work like that.
With respect, Melly, what I was getting at was the singular performances of these two players. I wasn't saying go out and sort it. What I was trying to do is have a question about, why is Arne Engels, why is he saying in press conferences 3 weeks ago, I need to get back in this team, and then when he's playing for the team, looking less than average?
It's just not that good.
But that's the answer maybe that we were looking for, Stephen.
Can't wait for the thumbnail of this episode. Jamie goes off on Daizen Maeda, tells players to man up and get on with it. No, look, I appreciate both angles here, because look, Daizen, I think there's more to it than just simply deciding to turn it on. Because if I'm honest, even before any of this emerged that he'd been, well, I was going to say linked with a move, he'd rumoured to or reportedly cleared out his locker and he was gone right before Celtic were forced to pull the plug on it.
I wonder if that's ever happened. I'm sure moves have collapsed at the last minute, but collapsed just where you literally packed your bags and you're waiting to go.
Phone call at the airport, basically, as he's going through security.
You need to come back. Why? We've made an arse of it.
Yeah, so that in itself is no way to treat your players and employees, especially guys who have run themselves into the ground for your club and deserve the chance to just do everything right and ask for a move at the right time, well in advance. Right, so we've been over this. However, again, want to represent the other view of kind of what you're saying, just, well, tough, you need to get on with it now. But sometimes it's no a case of just being able to flick that switch. And I don't think there's any hint that he's down in tools or anything like that. But we give players so many excuses. Oh, he needs to play several games in a row before we can judge him. Oh, he's in the wrong position. Oh, he's playing. He doesn't know the language. He's signed for the amount of excuses we give players is unbelievable. But yet this guy says his life turned upside down, and we're just like, right, we'll get on with it. So I know that he might get a move in January, but it might not be the same one. We could only speculate. But football is littered with players who were on the cusp of a big move, and it never happened for them. There will be plenty of examples the other way around as well. As I say, we could only speculate on that. But what if this was the move of a lifetime? Let's pick a club, Juventus or something like that was in for him, and then come January, it's Saudi clubs or whatever that are in for him. It might not work out. So all of this stuff must be on his mind at the moment. Yes, I do agree that in general, in a perfect world, we would be able to just tell him to get on with it. And to be honest, he is. But where I was going there when I said that before any of this emerged is that I suspected this might happen to Daizen anyway. There was no way he was ever going to recreate the form of last season. Again, that was the season of his life. With all this news now, with all this emerging and all it spilling out, the focus is going to be on him. And if he isn't able to recapture anything like that form from last season, which he won't anyway, in my opinion, then it's going to lead to accusations of his head being elsewhere, having down tools, lazy, let him rot in the B team for 6 months and all that kind of stuff. But you know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure on him now, a lot of undue focus when he's not really done anything wrong. All that's happened is he's been badly let down by the club, and he's trying his best to recapture that form. If there was any hint that he had down tools and went in a huff, Brendan Rodgers wouldn't play him, because we were there with Dembele. Remember, he threw Dembele out of training that time, and he was gone the next day. If Daizen had done anything approaching that, he wouldn't be in the team. Never mind playing in several positions as we try and adjust to whatever it is the plan is following the dodgy recruitment, because all of these front threes that we're putting together are, by their very nature, square pegs and round holes, because we'll not really get anything on the right wing. But we're trying to adjust here. Dyson wouldn't be in the team if it was a case that he'd chucked it and that his head was gone and all that. So I have sympathy for him, but I do appreciate that overall we're going to need him to just get on with it for a few months.
Is Engels just a flop at this point? I'm asking you. Is he just a very, very expensive flop? Because over the piece, he's no offering to me this season. I'm not talking about. I was happy with Engels last season, to be perfectly honest with you. But what I've seen actually has surprised me a wee bit, because all this talk of potential, all this talk about having a ceiling, to reach that potential, you need to work hard.
Yeah.
To reach that potential, you need to take the opportunities when they're given to you. And I'm not seeing a player take the opportunities. And again, I accept there might be this malaise over Celtic. There might not be. There might be the Daizen thing, and everyone else is just going about their business. There might not be any sort of, training. Everything might be fine, but I'm just, you're free to speculate. But I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing what I thought we were getting with Arne Engels.
No, and full context to that. If you're asking me if I think he's a flop, you quite literally did. We could wind the tapes back and hear you actually saying that. So the full context of that is that I sat here last season, towards probably the end of last season, and I said that with Engels, yes, he's not performing particularly well. He's not been like this standout player that you would expect for your record fee. But we've been over that so many times. He's not in control of that. So what we have to do is observe and make our own minds up based on, yes, the fee is a factor, but the rest of it. So I tried to do that at the end of last season, and I said that what we're doing here is we're picking out little bits and pieces that he does have, maybe not in a consistent basis, but you can see little flashes of this, a good touch, physicality, got a bit of drive, he can run from midfield, he can possibly, if he was to play as the double pivot, you could see him breaking up, playing, dovetailing quite well with Callum McGregor. So we were picking out all these potential items, and what I said was, if he puts all of that together, we'll have some player on our hands, and he could be player of the year material for next season. I said that right, so there's no point in shying away from it. However, it's in the bit before that it has fallen down. He hasn't put all that together, and he is basically the same player as he was when I said that. So when I said that, I thought that the pre-season, the kind of magic bullet that we always talk about pre-season, will kick a player on. That came and went, and he was, if anything, he was even further back in his development after that, because we'd signed one player, granted a good player, he's been performing well, we've already discussed him, Benjamin Nygren, but it's not the type of like mind-blowing, earth-shattering signing where you think, well, Engels is done here.
Well, Engels cost 8 times as much.
Correct. So Nygren has been good, but it's not the kind of signing where you think, well, I mean, this changes everything. It's just he's just been a competent, pretty decent midfielder, putting in decent numbers. So Engels has fallen even further behind in his progress than towards the end of last season. Is he a flop? I suppose in the absolute like bare facts of it, if you're going to call him an £11 million player in Scotland, has he warranted that? Categorically no. So
he's on the flop trajectory, isn't he?
Yeah, so in those very general terms, he is a flop in that he hasn't lived up to his... Even if you forget the transfer fee, right? Because there will always be that. There's no sense in ignoring it. He hasn't lived up to that. But has he even lived up to the playing potential that he displayed in his early part of his Celtic career? Decent Champions League performances as well. Is what you're seeing now an example that he's lived up to that? Also no. So I suppose overall, it has. I wouldn't be surprised if he went in January, to be honest.
It's up to him to really prove us wrong here, isn't it? And I'm only going on what I'm seeing at the games. I'm watching the guy. I think a lot of the time when I get strong feelings about a player, it's because I want them to do well. Yeah. I'm watching Arne Engels coming off the bench. He's a young player. I'm like, go on, you go. Show there's. I'm just a world class podcaster. There, I admit it. Yeah, I admit it. Yeah, that's all I'm good at.
Guilty,
But I'm looking I'm looking at a situation where teams are not performing well. A midfield isn't working. There's a young player who's presumably fancies some sort of career for himself in the future, who's got that ideal move. Celtic is the perfect club to be at if you want to be the next Matt O'Reilly or the next Nicholas Kuhn or whoever. You could not be in a better place for it. You're not playing. You're getting chances to show what you've got, and then it's just like, is this it? Come on, man! And that's why I feel, because I want him to do well, that's what's driving the frustration. I want the guy to take these opportunities when they're presented to him, and you look about the team, and there are players doing that. I think Iheanacho, for better or worse, is doing that. He's been better than I expected him to be.
Yeah.
Whether or not we get him match sharp, that's a different story, because that's basically haunted him for the past couple of years. Tuneki, we've spoken about. Liam Scales in the last couple of weeks, or since the season started, is the best he's ever been for Celtic. And I feel like Melly, this is the I think this is. I honestly think Liam Scales, I'm saying it here right now, check the record, bud. come the end of the season. If not in the league, definitely for the club, Liam Scales will be in with a shout for Celtic Player of the Year, because he's become, he's limited, but he's become quite reliable. He gives his all when we need somebody to stick their head where most people won't stick their feet. It's Liam Scales heading things away constantly, and he's looked like a Celtic player this season. There was question marks over him. I think he's a bit of a clunker at times. That's absolutely fine, but I think he's taking these opportunities this season. I think this is the culmination of the last couple of years we're seeing for Liam Scales.
Yeah, he maybe now feels like a Celtic player because it's all constantly been, sign somebody to take his place. And
someone said this weeks ago in the comparison is
new Greg Taylor.
He's like the new Greg Taylor kind of thing.
People love that comparison. Get in touch with the comments of that one. Can't wait to hear about this one.
Oh my god, that's an insult to some people to say that.
Some people
probably what spurs them on, but that's where you can look to Engels and go, look, this is not a vintage Celtic team. There is guys like Liam Scales going out there, giving their all, and they're staying in the team. You could be that guy. This midfield isn't locked down where you cannot get into it. There's an injury to Hatate now. Liam Scales has taken his opportunity. We've brought in players to replace him. He's kept them away. GSP's not even getting a look in anymore. So the centre-half position...
Anymore.
The centre-half position is just one that you probably just don't speak about now.
No.
And that's not to say that we're sorted, we'll be fine with Liam Scales. He still has his deficiencies, but he gives his all every game. He's doing the best with the ability he can. And everybody else was doing that, we'd be in a much better position.
Liam Scales, the
still not a fan of him, but
yeah, okay. The similarities to Greg Taylor are pretty obvious, not in terms of like their style of play and how they contribute to elements of the attack and all that, but what is behind Liam Scales now is a graveyard of mediocre, ropey European centre halves lying in his wake now. He's seen off probably just as many centre halves as Greg Taylor saw off left backs at this point. So he deserves his place, and he's been very, very consistent this season. Arguably the most consistent player.
Yeah.
I think I agree that if this were to continue, and obviously we're only in early October, but if this were to continue, he'd easily be in with a shout of being like the
September till what's October?
Is it? Yeah. So, but when this is released, check the calendar, bud. It will be October. But yes, man. So, where was I going? Yeah. So he's been very, very consistent. He's had the captain's armband this season. He took one for the team against Hibs, which was a crucial intervention at that point, because there was a couple of times that Hibs, I didn't think Hibs had a lot about them at the weekend there, but they did on occasion threaten to break away, mainly through the use of Kieran Bowie's strength in midfield, holding off the defenders. He had a physical battle with both of the centre halves. There was a couple of times that he turned Scales, a couple of times in quick succession. Scales just pulled them back. Thought, no, I'm putting an end to that, right? He shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. But you've got to do what you've got to do to fix it. In the end, he nearly did it again, and then you see him just shortly after it. He went to pull him again, and then did the "I'm no touching him" ref thing, and he would have been probably sent off for that. So he's contributing. He's got goals as well. He's been great this season. And
what if he did get sent off? The conversation here would be very different.
Very, very different. But it didn't. So it would be very different. But if he'd been sent off in preventing two pretty dangerous Hibs attacks, then 2 is a lot for that kind of thing. But
getting turned twice.
Yeah, turned twice. Yeah. So. But other than that, why are you trying to put me off?
Sake,
why are you bringing up old shit? That was
last week.
Days ago. I want to talk about the whole
or a week ago, depending when you listen to this. If you listen in October, that was over a week ago.
So, he's been good, all right. No, look, he's been very, very consistent. He's been a big part of holding that all back together at the back, rather, because yes, Celtic we've had many, many problems and many complaints about Celtic going forward. Just categorically not scoring enough goals. That's not in doubt. Even all you can do as a fan is compare to what's come before it. And last season was a world apart from this. There are many reasons for that. Chiefly among them, selling players who scored goals and not replacing them. Right, we've been down that road a number of times. But Celtic have been solid defensively for the most part this season. Have been solid defensively, and Liam Scales has been a huge part of that. A lot of it's changing round about him. It tends to be the two centre halves, as you've already said, changing the full backs. So I think we've used 6 fullbacks so far this season, including Inamura. I think, 3 right backs and 3 left backs. So that's changing an awful lot. Liam Scales and Carter Vickers have been pretty consistent in there. So he deserves all the praise because, again, I'm not going to shy away from it. I've criticised him heavily in the past, always questioned why he was still here when you could easily upgrade on that position. So I claimed, let's not go back into the easily upgrade on anything for Celtic, but he has shut me up. He has well and truly proved me wrong. Again, he's not the perfect player. He does have problems with his passing, but that's nitpicking. You could do that to any player in the Celtic team, regardless of who they are, how much they cost, what fancy club they came from, what league they came from. They've all got deficiencies in there, so I think it's senseless concentrating on that with Skills. I think he's been excellent.
Yes, I've seen a few shouts to sign Sriracha.
We're doing that, are we?
Absolutely not. Zero. We're not putting pen to paper on absolutely any more signings till we figure this shit out, okay? Right?
Put the contracts away. See the amount of times you walk into these 5.5-year contracts. Let's all just calm down. But he has been quite good. I know it's speaking of we're doing that now, are we? The rousing reception Paulo Bernardo got coming off the bench at the weekend as well. So we're doing that, are we?
Poor Paolo, you almost forgot about it, man. Poker face. Lady Braga up next for Celtic. You're wondering what they're all about. Good, that, isn't it?
I was wondering where that was going.
He was looking up the lyrics there.
I did double check. If you're wondering what they're all about, patreon.com/20minute-tims. We've got them scouted. Melly was out with Alex from The Athletic on that podcast discussing all things Braga, so you can catch that. We're going to be having post-match for Braga. We've got lots of great stuff on patreon.com/20minute-tims where you can support this fine podcast, keep the wheels rolling, keep us in equipment and get some extra content. And if you're just watching on YouTube, just like and subscribe. It doesn't cost a dime. Thank you so much, and we will see you very, very soon.